Hi there and welcome to Capital View. This week has been dominated by images of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Barack Obama. The warmth between the two leaders has sent out positive signals. But has anything concrete really been achieved in this India-United States summit? To answer that question, a galaxy of former senior diplomats, G Parthasarathy, Veena Sikri, KC Singh, thanks so much indeed for joining us. G Parthasarathy, let's kick it off with you. Has the hype obscured the substance, as some are saying, or has the hype overtaken the substance?
All summits are hyped. Let's be real. Start with that. We start with that. But in real terms, I think what is happening is on the economic side. We were in the doldrums for the last 3 years, but there are definite signs with Mr. Modi having become Prime Minister. There is a definite drive to accelerate growth. Adding to the optimism, the IMF has said that by 2016, we will exceed China's rate of growth. One sees the Sensex, one sees how there is a buoyancy in the economy. So this visit is taking place at that time. India has been one of the worst places to do business. And I think the word has gone out that we are going to make things easier for doing business. So we may come down from 140 to about 90 or so in terms of indexes. There is an interest because given the size of the Indian market, the availability of highly skilled manpower here, there is naturally an interest that as China goes up the value scale, India is going to emerge as a major source of investment. So that, hence the presence of CEOs, the huge number of economic meetings which have taken place recently, both here and in Davos, the Gujarat summit. So that is on the economic side. Sort of optimism in India for accelerated growth.
You know, we're talking about concrete issues in this summit. Pakistan was not mentioned at all. Pakistan really didn't figure. Pakistan was notable in its irrelevance. Is that good or bad?
I think there's no need to mention Pakistan because what has been mentioned, especially on counterterrorism, and I agree fully with what Partha has said, that was pointed enough. But I would point to another strong aspect of this visit. It's a movement from the September meeting of the two leaders in Washington to now from the agreement phase to the implementation phase. And they've said so themselves because September was Chale Saath Saath, forward together we go. Now it is Sanjha Prayas, you know, working together to achieve results. So it's a movement towards implementation which has come very quickly within 4 months.
KC Singh, it really depends on how Mr. Modi now does the economics. As they say, the sizzle is there, but what about the steak? And that also depends on hard economic reform and hard economic action. But I want to, before we get to that, come to your insights on the so-called nuclear deal breakthrough. What do you make of this deal?
You see, in India-US relations, sometimes if you're just watching that particular game, you tend to think that it's all begun there. This is a whole long process. If you go back to 2005, Manmohan Singh's visit to Washington, it's called a global partnership. Many of those themes are there. Many of those themes were earlier introduced by Vajpayee when they had the next steps in a strategic partnership. So the critical words are strategic, global, and then the themes come in.
Right.
Now, I wouldn't like to say, you know, to get into a simple thing like saying just because India's economy looks very attractive. It's true. Any major country will deal with you when your economy opens up. But I think disaffection was based not just on the economy. On the nuclear side, it started with the liability law.
Right.
That had nothing to do with the Indian economy.
But the liability law, actually, you know, a number of people have said that we've not really made progress because at the moment what the governments have done is simply said that we are in agreement about what liability is, but the companies continue to be bound by the liability law that exists today.
Let me quickly explain. And this, whenever I discuss with anyone from outside the government, very simply, it's good to preface by explaining that this liability law didn't fall out of the sky.
Right.
You had Fukushima, and you had a trial judge in Gwalior revive the old gas case.
But again, let me just come back to the positives. Are we then, of course, moving towards visa on arrival for US citizens? We're moving towards a bilateral investment treaty. We're moving towards that totalization agreement. We also have defense cooperation going. So you could say that, of course, hype has overtaken the summit, but you could also say that hype has overshadowed or obscured these nuts and bolts movements that
but there
actually
are
did
always
happen.
nuts and bolts.
There's all these nuts and bolts that did happen.
There have been very substantive movement which will bring American business to India. For example, 2 or 3 things. One is that the president himself spoke about the infrastructure sector, and he's spoken about an Indian diaspora investment initiative. So he's planning to bring the Indian diaspora into India through to implement various plans that have been agreed upon between the 2 sides. So actually the focus on implementation and what the president has said this has got a good resonance among American businessmen. I think that is the key, because once that resonance comes, that investment is forthcoming. Whether under the nuclear liability movement forward, whether any nuclear power plant is ever agreed to between India and the USA is still in the future.
Right.
It's in the future. But the point is that will no longer be a sticking point. They will go on discussing, but other things will start happening. And I think that is the feel-good factor.
That's interesting. Around the nuclear deal, lots of other moves are being made. Tentative moves are being made, and that's important. KC Singh, it's often said that the love between the United States and India is a love that dares not speak its name. Is that the big change that has happened now, that this love is out of the closet? Literally out of the closet? Because India is no longer afraid, there are no more ideological hurdles to actually being seen on a common trajectory with America.
True, but how far will you go? That is important. How far is India ready to go? And if you have to play this balancing game in Asia between the 5 big powers, which is Russia, China, India, Japan and US, then really it's what Bismarck said.
Are you disappointed that Pakistan didn't figure at all in any of the...
It will not figure. I think it's realized now. It's realized.
You weren't disappointed with that either?
No, it figures as JUD.
That's how it should be.
That's how it should be.
That we should ignore Pakistan in our
Jaish Mohammed is there.
No, it figures as LET. It figures in that sense. And I'm sure in their discussion they discussed Pakistan. But certainly why should it figure? Dehyphenation took place at the start of Bush's presidency, or a little later. Slowly the dehyphenation had taken place. But it is there. The question is, you can keep saying what you want, and that's why now and then Kerry in Islamabad.
No, but should India have expected a stronger statement from President Obama on terror havens in Pakistan, a stronger statement on terrorism?
Enough.
That's enough.
That's where it's targeted is very clear.
You see, it's all basically actions. Confidence building between India and US will take a long time. I've been coordinator counter-terrorism for 2 years. It used to be so difficult to get the agencies to sit together. And I'm talking till 2007. And since then, much has moved.
It's said about the Indo-US relationship that it's built on the people-to-people contacts that exist. The students, the academics, the business people, that is really the base of this relationship. It's the little people, not the big governments, that make it all happen. Is that really the key to this relationship?
That is the key. Today you see a synchronization of what the people want. I think this is where Prime Minister Modi's focus on youth and women is very important, because he's realized that if he has a youth with them, he has a future with them. Yes, the youth are interested in American technology, studying in America, and the whole works.
Indians are victims of American soft power all the way, from food to music to dance.
But today, the skill lies that today Prime Minister Modi has been able to synchronize his interest and the American interest. In the joint statement, it says so, that USA is interested in India's prosperity and development because they see a business opportunity, and also US thinks that India's rise will help regional and global stability. And will help world economic growth.
We don't want to get into the American sphere of influence of viewing our region entirely through the American prism. That's not our game either. We are pragmatic, self-interested players within our region as well.
See, that's why calibration becomes very important. Now, President Obama, in his three-fourth address, he introduced a new word. We used to say natural partners. Now he's saying, why can't we be best partners? Now, what exactly is that, best partner? India is not an ally, will not be an ally. In fact, Stephen Cohen once joked. He says, Pakistan is an ally which will never be a friend. And India is a friend which will never be an ally. So that they know, Americans know we are too large to be an ally. So what is it which is short of an alliance and yet is a partnership?
That's key. The best possible partner, the best partner. Let's take a short break at this point. When we come back, we'll talk more about the communication around this particular summit, the bromance between Modi and Obama that we saw, and also the various moments, the Man Ki Baat moment, the Siri Fort moment, all that after this break. Welcome back to Capital View. All this week, we have been seeing the images of solidarity between Barack Obama and Narendra Modi. But did this summit really mean anything? Has anything concrete been delivered? And also, what about the hype, the media communication, the bromance between the two leaders, and the various moments that we had of Man Ki Baat, Siri Fort, addressed by Obama? Let me ask you about the Man Ki Baat, G Parthasarathy. I mean, terrific communication, wasn't it? I mean, the two leaders together making a radio broadcast in a very intimate tone. Was that something that was very important, the communication of that?
Obama won his election by communication. He even beat Hillary Clinton to it with this, yes, we can.
Right.
When people were depressed with the Republican strategy. Mr. Modi did the same in the election here.
Superbly communicated.
Superbly communicated.
The whole thing.
To audiences. Again, the message of hope. Yes, we can.
But did the script go a little awry? Did you feel that the referring to the president by his first name, which a lot of people are speaking about, Mr. Modi kept referring to President Obama as Barack, whereas Mr. Obama stuck strictly to protocol and said, Mr. Prime Minister. Was that a misreading of the spirit?
Well, I think in the first place, in these instances, normally, Prime Minister Modi would have already discussed this with President Barack Obama. Is it okay if I call you Barack? You know, this is fine for a senior person. And why President Obama did not say the same is because Prime Minister Modi is older than him. So also in our own situation as well, for an older person, you wouldn't normally do that.
Or do you think it was a misreading?
I see it like that.
You could see a discomfort level on the part of Obama.
You did see the discomfort.
I don't think so.
Particularly when you're comparing, because the Prime Minister was guiding the questions.
On a public platform, would
on a public
Cameron
platform,
call
you
Obama
maintain a little distance. You maintain a little distance. It's one thing if you're at dinner, if you're taking a stroll, Garden of Hyderabad House, but it was deliberate. Prime Minister was deliberately doing it, and
you
somebody
think he went a little over the top.
We think so, but somebody coming from Haryana today told me, they said some farmer came and told them, look, he's shown the US president off.
Right.
So I think it's deliberate. There's nothing that happened during this entire thing which was not calibrated from both sides.
Right.
Even Obama, even though Man Ki Baat was recorded earlier, he had the last word.
Let me add one thing. Yeah. Don't forget, I mean, going back to what KC said about the Haryana farmer, for 10 years they denied him a visa, kept him as, out of the pale. Now, that rankles with many Indians, that how can you keep an elected chief minister of ours at that point in time? I mean, if they do it to any chief minister in India, I'd feel bad. That message, he's a grassroots politician. The message would be put in Hindi, dekho kahan se kahan aap pahunche.
Oh, so it was a deliberate move by Mr. Modi.
My own
somebody counted it and said it's 24 times almost.
He said it 24 times.
But my own hunch is, I'm told reliably that this Barack thing started in a trilateral meeting between the Australian, President Obama and Mr. Modi at the G20 summit.
I see.
It was introduced by the Australian and they joined in comfortably, with the joke then being about an American who's responsible for constructing Canberra, who's buried in India. So an American constructing Australia and dying in India.
Right, but Mr. Modi, that's a good point. But Mr. Modi is not someone who hugs and uses first names normally. He's normally
I think,
quite
Sagarika,
remote.
the problem is when you're
quite removed.
No, when
so
you're
this time, all that hugging and all that first name, was it a little out of character?
No, I think part of the
international travels, he's been doing that.
Part of the
quite a lot.
He doesn't do it with his political colleagues, though.
Well, maybe.
Oh, that's a different.
That's a different thing altogether.
Sagarika,
part of the problem is that they are operating in two different languages. Each language has its own customs and traditions. After all, nobody calls PM Narendra. It's called Narendra Bhai.
Right.
So in India, even when you go first name with a senior person, you add G or Sahab or something with it. Yeah. You do not use first name by itself. And if you recall, Obama called him Modi, which is his second name, without Mr.
Right.
He didn't call him.
He said Modi without Mr.
Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Modi.
No. He also said.
At one point he said Modi or Prime Minister Modi.
But let me just get the three of you to.
He said Modi.
Right.
On the press conference. So, you are having a little mismatch. They're coming through two different traditions, two different languages. And in one, doing that is odd because we don't do it in our language.
The cultural context was
perhaps
different.
It's like calling PM Narendra.
We don't do it.
How would he or public react to it?
So you think it was a misstep by
It's
the
two different languages. You don't import from one culture into other culture and start using it. We have our own tehzeeb, our own culture.
Right.
And English has its own traditions.
Right.
Now, when you go from one to the other, it will sound off-key.
Right. But just a few comments about the media coverage. Did you feel that this was a summit, the kind of coverage it got, the minute-to-minute coverage? Do you think it was very well designed for the media? I mean, in a sense, this was public diplomacy. We got to see everything that was going on, the clothes, the coming, the walk, the talk in Hyderabad House. Do you think it was made in media?
Having been in government through every Prime Minister since Jawaharlal Nehru,
they all do it.
I have never found anyone as media savvy as our present Prime Minister.
Do you feel the same
Yes,
way?
I think the media coverage is the events were planned for good media coverage.
Right.
The events were planned in a way that the media coverage was available, the media was given the space.
Having been a Prime Minister, you're a spokesman.
Yeah. And I think that he was able to use the media to the full advantage of the government, Prime Minister Modi, what he wanted to say to President Obama and what he wanted to achieve through the visit was on full display in every field. And I think it was a successful media coverage.
So do you think Mr. Modi was also then buttressing his domestic legitimacy as well, the chai pe charcha, the walking, the chale saath saath, that in a sense this was also part of his, part of a larger legitimizing of his authority as well. Not that it needs more legitimizing, but it was part of that as well.
First day was complete Modi show. Second day was shared with Rashtrapati Bhavan, which they still dominated. With Prime Minister, Defence Minister, MOS saluting. When the President was saluting, no one else is expected to salute. So there was a keenness to be in play. But the third day, Man Ki Baat came later. Obama hit back. It was President Obama.
And that's the note I want to come to next.
Yeah, he hit back. Because there he was again, vintage Obama, the global leader, the hegemon, who then said, I want you as a global power. Global power has responsibilities, global and local, including we love India, not just for your commerce and your economy. After all, that's a very small
I'm going to read out that statement that Obama made. Your Article 25 says all people are equally entitled to freedom of conscience and to freely practice and propagate their religion. In both our countries, in all countries, upholding this fundamental freedom of religion is the responsibility of every government. This is a very, very strong statement.
Being given to the ruling party. He's talking globally. He's talking of Islam. It is a very calibrated, very direct speech. He was playing to his audience now back home. As Prime Minister Modi played the first day and a half. And he was also playing to the Indian people. And this is an American tradition because American presidents, you remember Clinton going to Pakistan and addressing the nation. Obama going to China and getting on an internet debate with the kids, which the Chinese allowed up to some point. They tried getting past the government and speaking to the people of India, which is what he was doing.
So it's all very well to talk about how much bonhomie we have and call each other by our first names, or you call me by my first name, or we talk about business, but I'm going to get in my concerns about religion. It was a parting shot. It was a very, very strong parting shot that Obama gave at City Fort.
I look at it somewhat differently.
Okay.
From here he went to Saudi Arabia. No homilies about religion in the most regressive, fundamentalist Islamic state in the world. Very proud of it. It suited US interests. I think in the case of India, the Americans genuinely feel that Saudi Arabia is an embarrassment as a partner. In the case of India, they feel that the added point is it is a vibrant, pluralistic democracy like us. This is not an issue to be sold to the people of the United States. Okay. Now, what has happened is there have been the unfortunate incident of the churches in Delhi. There is a very strong Christian lobby in the United States which influences the president. He has to put it in.
You see that way.
He has to raise that once this has happened. You raise it in the best form you can. He has at every stage not singled out India for criticism. He has equated these things with the shameful attack on a Gurdwara in the United States. In effect, I think it is a part of the larger circumstances of growing religious intolerance throughout the world, starting with the Islamic world, Shia, Sunni, and against Christians. Extending into Europe, Islamophobia. Parts of America affected by Islamophobia, Sikhs are targeted because they think they are Muslims. The Americans are quite ignorant in matters outside their culture. So I think this is a larger thing of saying, look, we're all a part of this.
Right.
And we owe it to the world.
Right.
That we stick up to the norms of our because he spoke of the First Amendment.
It's a reminder of our democratic norms and our shared democratic values.
He spoke of the First Amendment to the US Constitution.
Right.
Freedom of religion was not a part of the original Bill of Rights.
Right. That's right. And he saved it right for the last.
Yes.
He went through the entire summit, and at the end he said, safeguard your religious freedoms. How do you read that?
And I have a feeling it would have been mentioned.
How do you read that?
See, I would say that the town hall meeting, yes, it did come at the end, and maybe it was planned that way to be at the end. One must see it as an address to the people. Here he is talking to the people. And of course, he is reflecting his own evangelist lobby at home, and that is very true.
You see it also in terms of the Christian
very strong evangelist lobby. Let us not forget that it's the same evangelist lobby who was in the forefront in preventing Prime Minister Modi's Chief Minister Modi getting the visa to go to the USA. The same evangelist lobby.
Which is after he passed the anti-conversion law in Gujarat. In fact, the visa was denied after that.
No, but also let us see that he was addressing the people. And he was reflecting some pressure points on him in the US. And secondly, he did mention all the religions. He mentioned Islam. He said he spoke about terrorism in the name of religion. So he had a definite mention of terrorism in the name of religion. But I think one must also take on board when he spoke about Martin Luther King and he spoke about Mahatma Gandhi, the question of non-violence. The question of ahimsa and non-violence. And this whole issue of conversion, yes, we do know that the evangelist groups, wherever they are, in every country of the world, they are very strongly in favor of conversion. But the debate in India today is slightly different. The debate is, if you're going to allow conversion, what about reconversion? So it's a different debate
but you feel that it is, again, you agree with Ambassador Parthasarathy that it was a part of his harking to the common values we have and harking to the common democracies we have, and that's the important thing. But, KC, the other point about, his speech in Siri, just to come to Obama's speech, Shah Rukh Khan, Mary Kom, women, he seemed to be ticking all the Indian civil society boxes. He wants to connect with all the Indian civil society icons.
Just 1 minute, Casey, if I may. In effect, he was telling Mr. Modi, anything you can do, I can do better.
Right. So in fact, he, speaking those words in Hindi, So, it was as if he's trying to access
Look, he was
Indian
not going
society.
to directly say, okay, guys, I'm going to talk of Ghar Wapsi now.
Right.
Okay, guys, I'm going to talk about now this, about reconversion. No. It was a structured speech. We can take it from this element. Somebody can take the trunk, somebody can take the tusks, or whatever you want. But very clearly embedded in that speech and darker impulses, maybe his own constituency back home, but he was very clearly saying it, and I don't think comparing India to any other country is possible. We're going to be the second or third largest economy in the world. We have the second largest population. So if India has to balance China, it can't do it by becoming like China. It can only do so. And remember, he came for a Republic Day. He's only reminding you what is in your constitution.
Of the Republic, that's a very good point.
Which was adopted on the Republic Day. So he's telling you, abide by your value system. That is what makes you a partner of mine.
No, he's talking to the youth about it. He's talking to all the youth, of all religions.
I don't think they should have addressed a joint press conference. Do you think they should have taken a press conference? Was that the big?
That is what I'm saying as a former JSXP. We have seen, this is all a calibrated theatre which is going on. But if you don't take questions, and I'm told the American side were not happy about it because he takes more than one question.
He constantly takes questions. He takes a press conference every week.
It's left to one question each, one of which was about Yemen and so on and so forth. It was not even about this. But that is where the trouble is, that you want theatre without questioning. You want theatre without really giving media any opportunity to ask you about substance. This is substance hidden and theatre on display.
Substance hidden and theatre on display. That's a very, very good line. I'm going to ask you to all sum up the summit and give your take. We're at the end of the program. What is your take, the big takeout for you of this visit?
I think there was substance, there was theatre. It all made for a public feeling good. And the fact of the matter is the relationship is looking upwards. That's what matters. More American investment, better business opportunities. The business of America is
movement.
Business.
You sense movement, you sense forward movement.
I said absolutely.
I would say symbolism and substance. And both were equally important for this visit because the symbolism of itself was very important, the President coming for the first time, to show to the people of India and the people of the United States that the President of the US has altered his State of the Union schedule and come to India for this because he feels it's important. He feels it's important for the US
There's
and
obviously
for
something
India.
very important in it for him. There has to be something in it for
and
him.
the substantive part of it was very great because of all these moving forward on the September meeting between the two Prime Minister and President over there.
Right.
So I think all in all, a very great success. I
Right.
would have no two ways
No,
about
this
it.
forward movement, as I said earlier, but as someone who would like public opinion to some explanation to the public opinion how the calibration is taking place. When you do not do that and the Parliament meets, the same issues will be taken up there with greater vigor. Instead of preparing the public opinion, getting past the elected representatives, taking the people into confidence, if you simply say it's done, and now you're seeing some leaks come out in the Western media on what has been excluded, then it explodes. So it will explode on, have they shifted the blame to the Indian people? Have they shifted the responsibility of taking the liability to the Indian people will be the question, which the Parliament will ask.
But that is there in every visit. That is there everywhere. Whether it's Putin's visit or President of USA going to UK or vice versa. These are
It is always there, but we're going to have to leave it there.
Let's not denigrate the
In
visit
my
because
view,
of that.
India's greatest diplomatic achievement in the recent past was the India-US nuclear deal ending global sanctions.
Right.
Let's not forget the ruling party now opposed it then, not to speak of the opposition within the Congress party itself.
Okay.
And, so
both are at fault.
This is
Both
all a
are
part
at
of
fault, but
of
they must
democracy.
reach out. I think that's very well said. So I think our panelists are unanimous. There's been forward movement. There's been a lot of positive spirit. Things are going to happen. Movement is discernible. The only thing is, KC Singh is pointing out that public constituency out there that needs to be convinced, that is asking questions. Perhaps that was not addressed. On the other hand, the feel-good factor perhaps making up for the fact that the deliberations were left a little bit opaque. Thank you so much to all my panelists for joining me. Thanks so much for watching Capital View. We're back next week with another episode. Tune in.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.